could be like in English or Spanglish.
We meet Sarah Lenore after the break. Stay with us. Sarah Lenore didn't speak much Spanish when she started co-writing a musical series in Spanish, but she did know a few things about working hard to make her dreams come true. Lenore is the co-creator and co-star of the new Amazon Prime series Melody, La Chica del Metro, or The Girl from the Subway. It's a story of musical connection across age, across language, across continents. It stars Argentinian actor and singer Yas Gagliardi alongside Lenore, who grew up in Plymouth. And the show is inspired by the actress's own stories as emerging and successful people with a dose of magical realism thrown in. Sarah Lenore joins us now. Hey, Sarah, welcome to Stateside.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
So will you tell us a little bit of the story about how Melody got off the ground? I know that your husband, Pepe Pagan, is producing the series, but how did this idea get going?
It was a little bit before the pandemic started, actually, and my husband was trying to reinvent himself. The music industry goes up and down, and he just wanted another way to, make money and have a successful career. And so he said, you know what, I'm going to write a TV series, and I'm going to go big or go home, and I'm going to do everything I can to get off the ground. And he started writing it, and I always peek in, and I started writing with him, like, hey, what if this happens? And what if this person does that? And how about this? And what about this song? So I ended up being the co-creator with him. And we actually filmed throughout the entire pandemic, like right in the middle in Argentina and Miami. We got investors, we got sponsors, we got a production company. We had to do the casting, via online Zoom. Everything was a bit more complicated than usual, but the world was, so was the world, so was everybody. Everyone was going through a complication then. So it was kind of like a miracle that we were able to pull it off. But when we were writing it, I said, hey, I know it's all in Spanish, but maybe this part could be like in English or Spanglish. I've learned enough Spanish to kind of, get through it. And he was like, oh my gosh, it's a great idea. Let's have you do this and then that. And then it just kept growing and growing, my role. So it's just super exciting. The show has 26 original songs in Spanish, English, and Spanglish. We have a fantastic cast. I think we got really lucky because it was the pandemic. So everyone was kind of, looking for work and looking for something to do.
Right.
So, it is a great show. But we got really lucky, I feel like, to be honest, with the level of actors. So that was just incredible. And then after we filmed it, we started to shop it around, try to sell it. Again, we're not TV people, we're music people. So my husband was using his musical connections. And this is actually the first fictional TV show ever to be co-owned and run with a music label in history. So that's pretty cool. We signed with Warner Music Entertainment, and they helped us to get the deal with Amazon Prime Video. So that's the long story short of how we got here.
So in the series, you play Layla, who's an American pop star, and she's the object of fixation for this young fan, Melody, who's a kid in Buenos Aires, played by your co-star Yas Gagliardi. But Layla has her own storyline too, right?
Yes, Layla, she's done it all. She's traveled the world. She's accomplished all of her dreams. And she kind of wants a more tranquil life. She wants to fall in love. She wants to have real friends. She wants to be able to go out and not get hounded by the paparazzi. And while she's finding this new way in her life, she starts hearing voices in Spanish. I think I hear voices.
Your twin soul. Tú en mi lugar, Layla. ¿The voices? ¿Otra vez? I think so.
And so her managers think she's crazy or she's too stressed. They get super worried. And Layla gets fixated on finding who is this voice because she feels this big magical connection. So the story kind of grows with Layla finding that voice. And that voice happened. Well, I guess I can say it because it's out now. It's been forever where I wasn't allowed to say it. The voice happens to be Melody. and they're in different continents, different places in the world, different ages, different languages. So we get to see why that's happening and what's the purpose. And I mean, the ending is just fantastic. So you'll have to watch to see that part.
Right. In the course of the show, Layla is falling for this guy, Pablo. And I feel like their conversations are kind of indicative of the show's entire approach to language. Let's listen to a clip. This is the two of them talking about whether or not they can spend time together.
Sorry, but you don't want to be seen with me. You'll be hunted by the paparazzi for the rest of your life.
Tranquila, tranquila. Tengo el auto estacionado acá, a media cuadra. El pueblo donde vinieron mis padres hace más de 40 años está solo a media hora. We'll take the highway.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I haven't felt this free in so long.
Sarah, had you ever worked on a project that had so overtly tried to work across both worlds before?
I have never. No, I'm born and raised in Plymouth. Grew up there until I was about 19. Then I moved to Nashville. I've always been a very homey kind of girl. Didn't really travel much until I met my husband. I was a semifinalist on America's Got Talent back in season 3 when I lived in Nashville. And after that, I was assigned a music producer. And it happens to be my now soul husband. This was 13 years ago, mind you. He was assigned to be my producer, and he came into the studio in Nashville, and he said, "Hola." And I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't speak any Spanish. I kind of, listened in high school, like Spanish 101, but, I don't know anything about it. And that's when I started just to be very open-minded and just really wanting and like yearning to learn more about different cultures and different languages and places. And about 8 months after working together, we fell in love and all of that happened. And it's been 13 years. We've been married for 9 years now. And we've just kind of traveled the world, working, doing what we love to do. But this is the first time that I got to be this much involved and speak in Spanish on camera and sing in Spanish. It was just the two worlds colliding. It's incredible, to be honest. It's changed my life in many ways.
If you're just joining us, my guest today is Sarah Lenore, a singer and actress who grew up in Plymouth, Michigan. She's starring in the new Amazon Prime musical series, Melody, La Chica del Metro, on Amazon Prime. Melody feels like a really important project. I mean, there are so many families here who've grown up bilingual, whole families who kind of straddle the line all the time, the lines of language and of culture. And I'm so curious about how the show works. I know I knew some people who were working on a bilingual podcast once. And as time went on, they found that they really had to fight to keep it that way, meaning to say, as they were recording the podcast, they might slip into a conversation that was all in Spanish, or they would think there was a particular topic that might need explaining in English, or there was a word that somebody wanted to say that they didn't know in Spanish. What is the writer's room like? How do you guys negotiate the interplay of languages?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's definitely more complicated. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would be making these bilingual projects.
Right.
It's definitely hard, but the benefits are times 10, I feel like. Something interesting is that when you watch the show, it's for a more Latino audience. Obviously, it's 80% Spanish, 20% English. And as the show goes on, my character speaks more and more Spanish also. But it's funny because when you watch the show, when I speak or whoever speaks in English, the subtitles are burned into the screen in Spanish. So the viewers, we were kind of worried about the Latino community that when I started speaking or they heard English, they wouldn't be as involved or wouldn't understand or wouldn't care as much. And then you would kind of lose a storyline. So we burned in the subtitles on the screen. Like you can't turn them on and off when it's in English. And It really worked. So we're told. It's that everyone can completely understand it from start to finish. If you don't speak Spanish, you can put the subtitles on for the entire episode also. But for the Latino community, they don't get lost in the translation at all. And we felt like that was really, really important. Even when there's a 3-minute song, all the lyrics that are in English, they they can read them, in Spanish. So it's very inclusive and no one feels left out. And I think that was super important for us to do. But it's definitely a little more complicated, that's for sure.
Yeah. And like you say, some of it goes by character. Just Layla at first is saying everything in English all the time, although that changes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like we said, your husband is originally from Argentina, and he's this music producer who's worked with a lot of the top stars in Latin pop. And I think people assume that when folks are in a bilingual relationship that they've got it all worked out, but there can definitely be bumps along the way. You have to learn how to have a serious conversation or a fight when one of you is not speaking your native language. How have you two worked that out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Besides that, it's so much fun though. It's so much fun to argue or to laugh or celebrate and not know which language we're going into. It's just the funniest thing, especially for outsiders. In the beginning, it was really hard because I did not know Spanish and his English was, iffy. He was fluent, of course, but it was just like funny. I would like, oh, your accent's so cute, or that's the wrong word. And it was playful and fun. And then I started learning more Spanish, and then he started learning more English. And now we do a Spanglish it's just a terrible Spanglish. It's only our language. It works for us. I have 2 stepkids that have been with us for the last 14 years, and they speak the Spanglish also, and everyone finds it cute and funny, and literally every other word is English and then Spanish and then English and Spanish, and that's kind of how we get around. But it's bumpy. In the beginning, I would ask him, what are they saying? Can you translate? What is it? And it's tiresome for him to always translate things to me. And so one day I was like, all right, Sarah, put your batteries in, let's go. You got to learn this, and honestly, the Argentina and South America and all of Latin America have been really, really nice to me with my career and really welcomed me with open arms. I've had a ton of opportunities and sung on albums of celebrities, in South America and Latin America, that I felt it was only right to learn their language as much as I can. And when I go there and speak a little or speak funny or different, they're just very, very appreciative. And it makes me feel great. We're here in Miami doing 13 TV interviews this whole week, and they're all in Spanish. And as soon as I start talking my horrible Spanish, they're just so you can see the smile right away because they weren't expecting it, and they laugh and they're like, thank you for trying, and we appreciate it. And I think it kind of makes me different as well. So I've just been consumed in this bilingual world for the past 14 years, and I absolutely love it.
It's so funny. I feel like I've just learned a great life lesson that maybe everybody should have a marriage across 2 languages, so that by definition, you will not understand what the other person is saying half the time.
It does not get boring.
You have to learn to roll with it.
Absolutely. I remember when the kids were really young, he would get upset at them and he would switch to Spanish. And, they're born and raised here. They know Spanish, but they're very American. And they would look at me like, Sarah, I don't know what he's saying. And I said, me neither. Let's go back to English. It's fun.
It's really funny, though, hearing you talk about your work in South America, which you've done several musical projects there.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States, like we're encouraged / demanded / expected to speak and think in English all the time. And I think because it's a country in which, there aren't, certainly people speak a ton of different languages, but like the official institutional culture is so much bigger. I just think it encourages us to think that it will be hard and that we cannot understand people in other languages, when maybe that's not actually the case.
No, I think I've kind of struggled with that because, my family is all still in Michigan as well. And in the beginning, they were like, why are you singing in Spanish? Why are you singing in English? Why are you learning this? What's going on? And my immediate reaction was, why not? I want to learn more. I want to broaden, my horizons and my perspectives in life. And my family kind of came with me on that ride. And it's really beautiful to know the whole journey that they took with me, because they come here to Miami and they're in a party with my husband and his family. Our wedding was in Detroit. in New Hudson. Our wedding was in New Hudson, and my husband brought his mother, who's never been to the United States, his brother and his cousins who've never been here. And it was the best experience ever to see these two families kind of connect and unite. And I have, my family grew up on a farm, just very American, and they were having a blast and trying to talk and say, hola, ¿cómo estás? And just trying to be like fun. And from that point on, they really wanted to be more involved, learning about the Argentine culture, the soccer of Argentina, of course, learning about their traditions. We do some Argentine traditions and vice versa. And I feel like without that push, my family would still kind of be, a little bit closed-minded about learning other languages or traveling. And I'm this close to getting my father to come with me to Argentina. Almost. Oh, I think the next trip he's going to come. I'm very excited about it.
He has no idea. When you finally get him there, he's going to be like, why didn't I come here years ago?
Oh, he is. He absolutely is. I bring my mom. My mom's, she's a little sick. She can't travel, but my dad, almost. He's going to come. We had a huge party for Melody back in January here in Miami, and it was in Spanish. And both my parents came from Michigan, and it was just so fun. They were to see the look on their face, to see the trailer of the show up on a huge screen, to see our music videos on this huge screen, everything in Spanish. They were just smiling and beaming and glowing, and they were like, they look like they're in another world. They're like, this is your life? This is what you do? And for me, it's nothing. It's what I do all the time. But they're like, it's in Spanish. This is so cool. And they really welcomed it. So I feel really lucky, and I'm glad they're with me on that for sure.
What's the viewer feedback been like on the show?
It's been incredible. In South America, we had a lot of promotion, which is fantastic. We had billboards just lined up everywhere. I mean, I would literally say every other block there was a billboard. It was so awesome. So obviously the more promotion, the more people see it. And we got so many views in the first week that were actually on the, when you go to Amazon Prime, the homepage, it's called like the carousel of shows. We are in the top newest Latino Amazon Prime shows. We got into the top of those. So it's right on the homepage of the Latino section, which is huge to be in the carousel, because if you don't know it exists. You don't know to go look for it. So you kind of have to be on the homepage so people see it. So based on the amount of viewers that we had the first week, Amazon Prime put us up there. So that speaks for itself, I guess. It was awesome. Awesome.
Sarah Lenore is the co-star and co-creator of the new Amazon series, Melody. Sarah, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for sending a little Michigan love our way.
Oh, thank you for having me. Anytime. Michigan will always be my core, my home, and my heart. Thank you very much.
Coming up, a Michigan chef's quest